just take your leisure to greet the folks. And if you would give us an update of kind of the state of the church, and we'll move from there.
Well, thank you, Fred, and hello, everybody. And I hope everyone is doing well in this 133rd week of the coronavirus. At least that's what it feels like tonight. No, seriously, let me just commend you, Fred and Shirley, on what you're doing to just stay in touch and keep everybody learning. I think this is a great time of using this time, of sharpening our skills and honing our skills, and none better than Fred Garman to help us do that. I want to say hello to everybody that I see on the screen as I scroll over on my phone. I see a lot of pastors and a lot of leaders and laity. It's just a great blend of God's people that are on this call tonight and week after week. Fred, let me just say, as it relates to the state of the church, I couldn't be more proud, honestly, of pastors and leaders and laity, of how that they have determined that we will use this to our advantage, and we will not allow this crisis to in any way stop the flow of the gospel of Jesus Christ from getting out. And I've said it week after week. I'm sure I sound like a broken record, but if the devil thought he would use this to silence the voice of the church, he was dead wrong, because more gospel is being preached to more people in more ways. I think the challenge with any of us is that, being cooped up, so to speak, for so long, we're kind of running out of walls to climb. So we've got to make best use of this time. I was texting earlier tonight, just a few minutes ago, actually, with a dear friend of mine right out of Nashville, Johnny Minnick. Johnny is a great musician, singer, songwriter, and he was telling me that he's used this time to actually record a new album. Of course, that's easy for him. He does it all in his house and computers and studio, and he's tremendous at it. But that's just an example of what we're doing. For myself, I really haven't slowed down that much. I've been in the office just about every day, honoring, of course, social distance with the very few people that are there. We practically shut down our offices 6 weeks ago and sent everybody home. And we're working with just a very few folks that we just have to call in occasionally to keep our videos going, and the Zoom meetings. I counted a few minutes ago. I think I'm up to about 85 now in the last few weeks. But, that's what leaders do. You got to keep the voice out there. You got to keep a face on it. And that's what pastors are doing with their churches. And so, again, I couldn't be more proud. Let me just ask everybody to pray. Tomorrow, we go into an extremely important Council of 18 meeting. I think probably most of you on this call tonight are Church of God folks. And so you would be interested in this. The council will take up tomorrow at 1 p.m., again by Zoom, from a report from a task force relative to the General Assembly. And so I know that's on everybody's mind. And we have pretty well tipped toward a postponement. Don't think there's really any way we can avoid that. And our convention folks in Indianapolis keep sending us strong signals that it may be them that pulls the plug instead of us. And so there's some things we're kind of having to work through with that, as you can imagine, contractually, and we'll get there. We may know that part of it as early as tomorrow. I hope we do, actually. But anyway, the council will pick up that discussion. And we got a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot as it relates to polity and all the things that go with being Church of God. So just pray for us. We'll pick that up at 1. If there is a decision made tomorrow, then we will do another call tomorrow evening for state overseers, informing them of where we are in this process. And then shortly after that, it may be Wednesday sometime, I'm guessing, I'll probably do some kind of more general overall church call, informing the body of where we may be at that time. But I do anticipate at least this week laying out some news as it relates to the General Assembly. We're only within that 100-day range. And so Indianapolis is concerned about a lot of things, as of course we are. So the council's been working beautifully together. We had a task force that met for about 4.5, 5 hours on Friday, I think it was, chaired by Dr. Williams. I was not in that meeting. I chose to absent myself and just let the task force deal with that. So they gave me a report, and I'll pick that up tomorrow with the council. So, Fred, that's where we are with those kinds of things. But on the other hand, I'm getting reports every day just about of pastors that are experiencing miracles and under every category, blessings, spiritual, and financial. I've really been pleased and amazed at what I've been hearing from some pastors. And then the other thing I think that this group would be interested in, and this happened, I know, since you met last week, the tornado, of course, that came to Cleveland, less than 4 miles from where I'm sitting right now. A terrible tornado touched down in a very difficult area of our city. It's a sad situation over there. And Paul and I have driven over there just this afternoon. I was with Kevin Brooks a few days ago, and national and state leaders taking a tour. And it's just really sad what has happened over there. People losing their homes, and God's Pit Crew is there, Men and Women of Action, Operation Compassion. They've been leading the charge ever since it happened and they could get in there. So I couldn't be more pleased with the way the Church of God has responded. So I love all of you and appreciate your heart and what you're doing to pursue excellence. I think it's great. And Fred, always, you have my thumbs up, man. Never a question about that. And the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. I really believe that. So have a great one tonight. God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Our prayers are with you. And thanks for the way you're communicating with the church. We appreciate that so very much.
All right. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bless you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue to move on here tonight. It's always good to have Dr. Hill to be with us. And let me see if I can move some of this around and I'll get to where we can play. There we go. We have with us tonight, I believe, Keith Ivester. Keith, are you with us tonight? Keith is going to be coming on in the next few moments then, I hope, as Canada joins us again.
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, Keith.
I've been talking, but it was a double mute. So I've never been double muted before. That's new for me.
Well, hey, if you're like me, my wife says she's been trying to do that for a while. It's a secret. Just greet everyone, if you would, Keith, and especially those of our great friends up in the northern part there in Canada that you work with.
Absolutely, Dr. Fred. Thank you so much. Delight to be with all of you tonight. I was scheduled to be with you last week. And as Dr. Hill was just speaking, my house is in Cleveland. My house is very, very close to the Lee campus. And we heard the great noise coming. We were in a confined area last week about this time because of the storms. And it missed us. But my wife and I did drive over and see some of the devastation, even again this week, where they're trying to pick it up. It was an area that was hard hit. So we pray for those people. In some of our area there, there were some areas that desperately, they were in bad shape anyway. And so they didn't need another catastrophe.
Right.
So I know that you'll want to pray for them and pray for Dr. Hill. And tomorrow we'll go to an executive council meeting and try to make some decisions about General Assembly. But we have a number, I think, I can't see them all, but I think we have a number of people who are on with us from British Columbia and Quebec and Ontario, Saskatchewan. I believe we have people in that areas. So we're all joining together with you, Dr. Fred, you and Shirley, your special friends. And you guys are just doing a superb job. Thank you for what you do for the church. Brother Fred, the component that for many years was so absent. And that was, even though in some ways we would all try to do leadership, but it was not done in a clinical kind of way. So when you finished your work and you began to present this in a clinical capacity, it began to give everyone a chance to join in and learn together. So thank you for what you're doing. I'm here as a supporter, but also as a person who is always looking for sharpening my skills and sharpening the sickle on both sides as we speak, because I believe we need to cut the wheat on both ways so we can do all for the kingdom. God bless you. I'll be with you all night. So you're doing a super job. And I believe if you don't behave yourself, Shirley does have that ability to take care of you.
She's got the mute button. Thank you, Bishop Ivester. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the folks up in Canada, many of my great friends that have attended Leader Labs here in the United States, and also I have been in Toronto with those labs. So thank you so much. We also have with us tonight Bishop Mitch Quarter, the Department of Church Health and Revitalization, and he's partnering with us as well in this endeavor. So Bishop Mitch, if you would, greet the folks and all of those people that are with you that might be joining tonight.
Hey, Dr. Fred, thanks again. I've been looking forward to today. These Sunday night sessions have been just a wonderful way to take a time when we're restrictive and make something productive out of it. And I appreciate you making this available. You know, our whole premise in church health revitalization is simply to build stronger, healthier churches. Well, a strong, healthy church is led by a strong, healthy leader, pastor, minister. And so our partnership with you is important because I think it makes leaders and pastors stronger and healthier. So they in turn can lead their church to become stronger and healthier. And I have to confess something. I'm a little impatient. I've already went on and signed up to Chuck Quinley's free training for video and all that kind of thing. And so as soon as this is over, I'm going to take the first session tonight. And I appreciate you and Dr. Chuck making that available, because I think it is just one of those practical tools that's really, really, really going to help us. And, you know, I always say that when you invest in yourself, there's always good return. So Fred, thank you for our partnership, and thank you for investing in the leaders and ministers and pastors of the Church of God. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate your partnership as well. We're having with us tonight, and Chuck is already on. We were talking just before the lab began tonight, but he and Sherry Quinley are in Seattle, Washington. They're joining us by Zoom in this meeting already, but he'll be our special guest in the guest room as our interviewee tonight, presenting some very important information and giving away some stuff that I'm about, I guess, right at halfway through the course myself. And it is an exceptionally good course. And I'm going to let Chuck tell you all about that and how you can pick that up just a little bit later on as we move through tonight. And as Chuck shares his presentation at 6:40. What I'm going to be dealing with tonight in this particular Leader Lab during the COVID-19 crises has to do with turning loneliness and isolation into solitude and reflection. And I wanted to present this because I think it's exactly where we are now, weeks into the COVID-19 virus, where we have all been sequestered and been put into our own homes and isolated from our friends and family members. It was just a few weeks ago that I actually taught one of my Leader Lab 2.0 labs that I've entitled SELA, Silence and Solitude, the Existential Necessity to Pause, Reflect, and Think. When I wrote this lab about 8 to 10 months ago, last year, I had no way of understanding nor knowing that in the new year, just a few months later, we were going to be isolated from one another. We were going to have to deal with this isolation situation, the solitude that comes by being separated from one another in a forced situation. So tonight I'm going to share some of these and other pertinent points from this particular lab and see if we can't find the bright spot in all the gloominess and all the stuff that's happening, because there are great opportunities here for us. If you haven't read the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis, a genius, then I'm asking you and I'm imploring you and I'm challenging you to get anything, number one, by C.S. Lewis, but especially the Screw Tape Letters, because it's there in the Screw Tape Letters that C.S. Lewis describes a demon by the name of Screw Tape and advised his demon tempter, whose name was Wormwood, that one of the most effective ways of discrediting a virtue was, first of all, to ruin the word. See, words have meaning. And so what the devil said was to all of his imps, if you could just ruin the meaning of the word, if you can just alter its perception, then the word no longer works. It won't have the same positive effects. And so we read in the Screw Tape Letters that it seems now, by looking at what they strategized and what has happened in history, that the lexicographic demons did a pretty good job on this word, aesthetic, the aesthetic word. It's a word that conveys today images of severe self-discipline, abstention from all forms of indulgence. It seems that it means to be unapproachable, to be unworldly, sometimes even super spiritual, to be cut off from the human race, typically for a religious reason. It's where we get the idea of a monastery, you might say. But ascetical is actually an athletic word, an athlete's word. It's from the Latinized form of the Greek word askein. And listen at the interpretation, the literal meaning of the word: to exercise or train for athletic competition. A skilled worker, an athlete training to go to work in the arena. Literally, the word ascetical, to be ascetical, means to train for excellence. Far cry from what usually comes to mind when we hear it today. It is the practice of the disciplines that fit us for perfection, that equip us to do the things that we have been called to do. So, to be aesthetic, every action has to be backed by years of repetitive behaviors that are the very antithesis of spontaneity. And it seems that everything today is about this thing called spontaneity. When the moment for performance comes, the aesthetic athlete, the well-trained athletes, every one of them perform with prowess, skill, expertise in their particular field. But it now seems that the training practices of our ancestors, of our forefathers, of those that went before us, have not been carefully looked at, because this word has been ruined. So I say to the strategy, smart devil, you took a great word that meant something that for many, many years was really about spiritual disciplines. It was about training ourselves for godliness. And that's what Scripture says here, 1 Timothy 4:7. It says to train yourself to be godly. It's a far cry from spontaneity. It's a far cry from pixie dust being sprinkled over our head. It's really a far cry from being a monk in a monastery, which kind of led to that extreme of asceticism, of going off into a monastery somewhere and secluding yourself completely from society. But throughout history, Spiritual disciplines have been reinforced. They have been lifted up. Some of the most important ones that come to mind are these: prayer, fasting, study, particularly of scripture, meditation, and last but not least is solitude. Yes, this thing we call solitude has been known for millennia to be a spiritual discipline. And these things called spiritual disciplines are to help us on the journey. It's not a silver bullet. It's not something that just happens overnight. It's about growth and it's about maturation. It's becoming the best version of ourselves, and solitude is a part of that. Solitude, by definition, is the state of being alone. It's often considered one of the traditional spiritual disciplines, one of the top 5. Many times this concept of solitude is associated with silence. We get solitude and silence, a way to distance oneself from the distractions of the world. And boy, is that not something that has needed to have been done. And now we find ourselves kind of forced into getting away from the distractions of the world. And times they have changed, haven't they? Yes, they have. Times have changed. I remember growing up in neighborhoods, even as a little boy in North Carolina. And the front porch was something that was very, very special to most families many decades ago. Things like air conditioning, cable TV, and the internet have taken us from our backyards and neighborhood gatherings and front porches, and it has taken us indoors. And the distractions of technology have done their job. Well, the problem is this, ladies and gentlemen. The problem is that for the first time in all of human history, silence and solitude is starting to fade away almost altogether. Now, did you get that? Silence and solitude, helpful concepts, ideas, experiences are starting to fade away almost altogether. Why? Because we live in a cacophonous age where distractions are coming at us like swarming insects. It's the insects of noise and interruption, emails, text messages, cable news, advertisements, cell phones, meetings, wireless web connections, social media posts, and it goes on and on and on. It's just one thing after another, one sound, one attraction. And it seems that the attention engineers, Silicon Valley, and all of those who have been designing the tech, they've done a pretty good job. Now, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as we're going to see in page 2 tonight when Dr. Chuck Quinley comes on, because there are great things that come with technology. But it has also caused us to be connected, but to be disconnected in so many different ways. And so with the rise of technology, with the slowing down of silence and solitude to where we're constantly distracted, one thing upon another, here is what we face every morning that we get up. Wake up, hustle, repeat. Wake up, hustle, repeat. In fact, hustle has become almost a braggadocious word, that we are hustling, man. You're a hustler, and not in a negative sense, but in the fact that you are out there working your fingers to the bone, you might say. Well, it was Barack Obama's Surgeon General during his tenure that really brought attention to this problem and what the hustle was doing to us, what the attention-grabbing social media was doing to us. He said this, and this was from Harvard Business Review, an article. Many articles have been declaring this since the time. But he said during his years of caring for patients, the most common pathology that he saw was not heart disease or diabetes. It was loneliness. Now, that should grab you the way it grabbed me, because loneliness is a warning sign that leads to a deeper issue called isolation. It's a sense of a lack of profound contact with other human beings. It seems to be the disease of our time, the article says. And yet now, to add insult to injury, we have now had the coronavirus, the COVID-19 disease to hit us, and now social distancing has caused us all literally to go into our homes in a more intense type of situation. We are been forced to slow down. I think that might begin to show us the silver lining in all of this. It was Pastor Tom Sturbins in Tennessee, Kodak, Tennessee, who last week in the guest room told us these 4 points. He said, times of crises are always about change. And then he dove in and asked us, he challenged us with these 3 questions. What is God wanting to change? I think I've been talking some about it already tonight. Number 3, he said, what is he wanting to change in me and you personally? And then last, how is God wanting me to help others change? How is God, what's he up to in all of this? How's he wanting to change me? And then how does God want me to work with other people who might need to change? Well, I think we first have to come to grips with this fact. If leadership, if all leaders, and our first responsibility is to define reality, then here's the reality. There is a difference between loneliness and solitude, because one will empty you. Loneliness and isolation will empty you, and the other, solitude and silence, which is intentional, it's a choice, it'll fill you up. And you have the power to choose, no matter what your circumstances, no matter what our physical situation is, we have the power to choose. I've had an opportunity during the time of being inside, and I love to read, as you well may know, but I've been reading Walden. And it was here that Henry David Thoreau wrote this particular book. Again, I challenge you to read it, where he put himself in a cabin on Walden Pond intentionally for 2 years, 2 months, 2 days. And he was trying to figure out this thing called life. And the only way that he felt that he could really figure it out was to get somewhere secluded to where he could think. Because throughout history, solitude and silence has been an idea. It has been a concept that said that one of the byproducts, one of the great results of solitude and silence was creativity. Being able to think, to clear the mind, to put things in order, to set right our core values. Well, I think that maybe the psalmist in the Old Testament knew something about this. These are the Hebrew word for the term Selah. We read it in the Psalms a number of times, 71 times, in fact, in the book of Psalms, and then 3 times in the book of Habakkuk. And we're not really sure what this mysterious word means. There's controversial debates between biblical theologians, but we think that it means pause and reflect. Stop and listen. Could it be that this is part of what God's up to? He said, you can see that it's going to rain tomorrow, that the sun's going to shine, but you can't see the signs of the times. You can't read it. In other words, things that happen in our lives and history are intended for us to figure it out and to see. I think that the Lord has allowed us a pause, a Selah, if you will. And if there's ever been a time where we needed a Selah, it was during this hustling season that mankind has been in. We need to get alone. We need to be quiet. We need to think and reflect like no other time before. Jesus in John chapter 9, verse 1, as he passed by. A lot of things happened for people as Jesus passed by. Jesus walked. It was the primary mode of transportation during that time there in the Mediterranean when Jesus walked the earth. And walk is the operative term. Walking at about 3 miles an hour is a good conversational pace. I love to walk around the neighborhood. Shirley and I do. And it's at around 3 miles an hour. And all of us could do with a little outside. It was Kosuke Koyama. He's a Japanese theologian. And he has written a book about the 3 mile an hour God. He said, God himself has a precise speed. And it's 3 miles an hour, not hustle. It's the speed, according to this theologian, that we are going when you are briskly walking in a conversational pace. And even though we like the euphemism, we're walking with God, we're walking with Jesus, in truth, most of us prior to the COVID-19 crisis, we were not walking with God. I want you to hear me. In reality, we were walking way ahead of him. He's walking behind us at his own pace at 3 miles per hour. And it could be that God is trying to say to us, here's the signs of the time. If you are wanting to be leaders and men and women of Issachar who understand the times and know what the church should do and what God's up to in these changing times, then maybe you should slow down. Because both military and medical people, the surgeons that are operating on us on the operating table, they have a phrase. It's called slow is fast. And I think we could learn something from that. We need to slow down. As Jesus was walking, he was able to see this man, that woman, and to consider their circumstances and have compassion upon them. 3 miles an hour. It's our soul's speed. It's the speed we need to walk today. Jesus is our 3 mile an hour example, if you will. And I want to ask you, would you adjust your pace? Would you slow down so that you can see yourself? Self-awareness is so important. See others that are around us and how we might be able to help them. And you know what really concerns me is that when we finally do get set free, that we're going to go back to the hustle, that we're not listening, that we're not really going to learn anything from this. I know one thing, I'm trying to determine in my own heart and in my own life, I'm going to walk at 3 miles an hour. I'm going to figure out, I'm going to be working on, I'm going to figure out the 3 to 5 things that are my priorities, my most important task, my MITs. And so I want to challenge you. What unnecessary things can you remove from a very crowded calendar? Can you set aside a few quiet moments every day for silence? When you have that cup of coffee, can you put silence with it to where it's not the cell phone, it's not the morning news, but it's just you, the Lord, and that cup of coffee? Prayer time, meditation time, silence. Can you redefine how you use your electronic devices? Dr. Quinley in a few moments is going to help us with that. Can you get out and go for a walk and possibly even leave your cell phone at home, or at least turn it off? Don't use it at all, but just get alone with yourself and with your own mind. Separate yourself from other minds that are vying for your attention. Can you sit on your front porch again? Maybe invite somebody else to sit on your front porch again. It might be a good time to learn how to make tea again. Put some good ice in it and invite someone to join you on the front porch. See, Selah admonishes us to slow down to 3 miles an hour in life, to pause, to reflect, and then to think. Because silence and solitude will clear the mind. When we're in the hustle, this is what our mind looks like. It looks like a shaken snow globe. And we need to be able to clear our mind. The spiritual discipline of solitude, science, and experience is now decrying the fact that we need to get alone and separate ourselves from other minds and the distractions that are vying for our attention. Some of us have not been in the zone or in the flow or in the anointing for quite a while. And it could be because we've been bragging way too much about the hustle. Well, how's that been going for you? I believe if we really intentionally and consciously made this decision, not 98%, but 100% decision, to say to loneliness and isolation, I'm going to trade you for solitude and for silence. See, the greatest thing I believe that COVID-19 spread was not a virus. Oh, it's spreading, and that's terrible. But I believe what it has spread as well, the silver lining, it spread a perspective. A perspective. See, the COVID-19 crisis has given us valuable time to consider people that were in our lives. People, for me, like some of my mentors, like Bob Pace. And Bob Pace gave me the value of having skin in the game. I'll never forget Bob saying to me, just give me $5 if you want to go on that missions trip. And what Bob was really saying is when you begin to invest in yourself, when you begin to put skin in the game and believe in your own personal growth and development enough to have skin in the game, you're going to go into a point of no return experience. Dr. Bill George. Dr. Bill George was a man that put into me the value of education and lifelong learning, pouring into me how important it was to pour into other people. It was Bill George that pushed me and that told me to make sure that I was developing, that I was leading me, that I was managing me, that I was unselfish, and that I was mentoring and leading somebody else. And then my own father-in-law, Ted Jones. Ted Jones was a great friend, but tonight I want you to know that he was also a man that deserved the Wonderful Person Award because he was kind. And he taught me about being a man of character, about loving God, and about loving your family. So many things that we could talk about tonight that need to be put in order, core values that we need to think about and place all the big stones into our calendar and our to-do list first. I'm determined to slow down to 3 miles an hour and to trade loneliness and isolation for silence and solitude. That's my challenge to you. Okay. I hope that some of these words, some of these thoughts have meant something to you tonight. Comes out of my heart, comes out of my passion, comes out of my own commitment to become the best version of myself and to use this time in some type of beneficial way. So God bless you as you join me in trying to walk at 3 miles an hour. Well, we've got with us tonight Dr. Chuck Quinley.
Well, good evening, everybody. Glad to join you tonight. And I just feel like the local church is really such a spot of hope and center of what God does, town by town. And I just honor the work of pastors and those who are church leaders. Sherry and I, we were pastors for over 20 years, church planners. I was also involved in seminary administration and teaching. And about 15 years ago, I just saw the changes that were so quickly moving through the world. We have 6 kids, as you alluded to. And so I got to see the ripple. You know, we would talk about how powerful this new media thing was in our kids' lives. And what I knew was I had zero training in it, and I didn't think anybody else did either. And I started looking seminary by seminary. You know, it's just a huge gap. So I knew I needed to do something about it myself. And we try to be a resource for all of Asia because only 3% of missionaries go to Asia. And it has over 95% of the unreached people in the world. So we've just felt a burden. And so I transitioned out of pastoring, out of seminary, and went to film school and started learning about this new, I think it's a world language of media. And in the beginning, it was special, you know, it was a special skill and it had all this special equipment. But as the years have progressed, it's not special anymore, it's normal. You know, to not have any skill for using modern media tools like our telephone, it's like not owning a phone today. It's almost like being illiterate. And so we've been working really hard to get trainings for emerging leaders so that they can learn the skill set to start producing good quality Christian messaging so that, you know, for the sake of the gospel, so we can get out. So that's got my heart, and that's where all my energies go.
Can people come to be with you, Dr. Chuck? And if so, how do they do that?
Yeah, if you want to check out our school, it's MediaLightAsia.com. Now, MediaLight has a campus. Thank God just opened it last year. We just, actually at the turn of 2020 was our dedication for the new campus. And then we, Sherry and I came to the States thinking we were just going to go right back and return. And now we're locked out of Thailand. It's in northern Thailand, but we have had students from 40 different countries come there. So it's really become a global gathering place because there aren't that many places even yet where you can go to study in a short framework. We're just 10 weeks long for our big program, to be able to go and study professional level media for the sake of mission. And so we have students from all over the world. But anyway, we were in the States, and then this COVID thing hit, everybody's locked down. And I started more and more understanding the battle that pastors were under because they needed to stay connected to their people. They needed to continue to do ministry, and they did not have the skill set to know what to do when they couldn't have face-to-face meetings. And, you know, Fred, what I think has happened is all that this has done is to fast track trends that were already happening. I mean, we're already ordering things from Amazon. We already had Facebook and other ways to do conversation. And frankly, we already saw declining church attendance for 20 years now. And this new generation is really, you know, there's so many studies on how unlikely they are to keep coming to church. And so we just had, you know, what would have happened in maybe 10 years has just happened in a month, all of it. So it's, you know, it's disruptive change, and it's breathtaking to get ahead of it. But if we can learn the basic skill sets and start learning to use it as a daily part of a normal ministry, we're going to get caught up. And I think it could really be the boost that we've needed to get the church and get all of us as leaders caught up and in in the time that we're actually living in, because the world is there, the devil is there. It's just the church that's like way in the back as far as our skill set goes.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Chuck, if you could, we've got this unbelievable audience of pastors, leaders, laity from all over the country, from Canada. They're joining us. There'll be this many or more that will look at it on the recording later on. So you've got this audience. What 2 or 3 things would you say to church leaders at this time during the COVID-19 crisis that has to do with the use of video, the use of technology? You've got it right there now in your pocket. The camera right here is about as good as other cameras. And tell us a little bit of the fundamentals about the use of video and social media, how important it is, and so on. You've alluded to some of that, but dive a little deeper into that if you would.
Okay. When I was a kid, there used to be an expression that said, don't judge a book by its cover. But nowadays, the cover is the reason they buy the book or don't buy the book. The cover plus how many stars, what do other people say about it? That's the whole decision. The form of a thing, the look of a thing, design work. It is now not just equally as important, it's more important, which is kind of sad because it means you could have a low quality message, but if it looks awesome, people they're gonna want it. And there's a lot of fluff like that, but you don't, honestly, we're not going to be able to compete unless you got a massive church and a really big media, a really trained media team. We're not going to be able to compete with Disney on a Sunday morning or with anybody like that in our media feed, but we don't have to. The great thing is that if you're a teacher of God's word, and I grew up listening to preachers who didn't have an education, but they were awesome to listen to. I mean, I've known some illiterate preachers. I remember this one guy, he was preaching about blind Bartimaeus. And man, he started that morning and knocked over his food, and someone cheated him with money. And I mean, you could feel the blindness because he was a storyteller. And when we focused on storytelling, we're at our best. So these are the skills. We have basic communication skills that are much higher than most people. It's just to get through the technology barrier of it. And honestly, it's not that hard to master. And it's a little too much to do in just a quick answer, but we did. Can I tell them about the course?
Yeah. Go right ahead, please.
We made a course just for you, and to show you how approachable it is. Andrew and I were in Sherry's hometown. His family was there, and I was there with Sherry. We went to visit her mama, and that whole town has 1,200 people. And that's when we got the first lockdown from the virus. And so he and I went into a church that wasn't having meetings, and the pastor there, Kevin, in Mount Union, Pennsylvania, if you're listening tonight, thank you so much. And he opened up the doors for us, and we went inside, and we just took our cell phones and we created a course for leaders. It's called the Church Leaders Digital Survival Course. And if you'll go to MediaLightOnline.com, you can sign up for it. We made it completely free. It is the basic intro level course that everybody needs to use only your cell phone and to be able to start communicating. Because the biggest issue is not technology. And, as you said, if this had happened to us 10 years ago, we'd be in trouble. But it happened now, and our cell phones are amazing. The things that a cell phone can do, you can shoot. Steven Soderbergh shoots whole movies with cell phones and says he'll never use anything else. The immediacy, it's a live moment, it's real, and you be real. It's when you start, trying to speak to the world, and you don't speak to the world, speak to one person, speak to your people. Start with people you know. And so in this course, we're going to teach you the how-tos, but also the discipline of starting to produce content, not big content. 2 minutes, 2-minute videos. Actually, you're only supposed to do 1 minute, but I'm a little long-winded, so I did 2 minutes in mine. You can check mine out on Facebook, Chuck Quinley. Just become my friend. I'll always be your friend. But 1-minute videos is all we're trying to get you to do. But if you just do them day after day, if they're meaningful, if it has something in it that ministers to people, they'll start looking for it if there's a rhythm to you coming on. You know, if you just always ambush people and who knows when you're going to be on, it's hard to build anything. But if you just decide every morning from 10 to 10:30, that's my media time, and there's a number of things that you can be doing right now. This course is going to teach you a lot. And one more thing we're working on, if I can go ahead and pitch that. The course that we have, they're videos and they guide you through the steps. But within a week or so, we're going to launch a workshop, because what happens a lot of times is people watch the videos, but they never do the work. And so we want to have a 3 or 4 hour workshop where, as we teach basic media survival skills, you actually do them and you put the thing together while we're there together. So we'll contact you about that one later as we hear back from you. But that's another thing, is I would love to hear back from your audience. Wow, what a resource this is. What is it that you want to learn? You know, what is it that you feel like you need to learn? If you could pass those in, then if we could get a hold of that, we'll design courses to meet the need, because, you know, we're here to serve. We do this in Asia all the time. This is part of our missions work. And now we're in our homeland, and we're delighted to serve the churches in America, and we want to be of service to you. So if there's anything that we can do, and I just feel like this course is our first good way to be of help to you, instead of trying to answer questions one by one. If we just put together a good course, we felt like we're going to answer a lot of people's needs.
Okay, let me follow up with you on a couple things you just said there, because this is really good. Number one, sign me up. I am eager and ready and waiting for the course. As you were going through the course, the digital survival course that I've been going through, I'm about, I guess, halfway through it now. I found myself wanting you to slow down a little bit and do just what you said. Let me take time to do my Facebook and to get my Facebook group page going and that kind of thing. So I'm thrilled to hear that you're going to do that. You can sign me up. Second of all, I want you to address this. Number one, in just a few minutes, we're going to open it up for question and answer. So I think that the audience for the next 30 minutes, Dr. Chuck, can actually start asking you some of the things that they would like you to include in the course. So get your pencil ready as the folks come on to do that. But you mentioned two things that I want you to reiterate before we go into the Q&A time. If you could address these two things. Number one, you said you don't need, if I heard you right, you don't necessarily need a lot of, you don't need thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment. A lot of what they can do can be done with a cell phone and a few other items. Second of all, you just talked about being real, being genuine, being authentic, and communicating with your audience. And if the Lord gives you favor and it grows, it grows. But start out with what you've got. Is that what I'm hearing you say about not needing a lot of equipment and be authentic?
Yeah, I want to start on the second one first, because it's what makes it, that's who wins in all of this. And if I'll say this again in your course, but I'm going to go ahead and drill it down now. If I could do one thing to help anybody starting a media ministry, I would remove the concept of big from their mind. Because if you can stop trying to reach the world, nobody reaches the world. You know, if you even look at the biggest shows on TV, they may have 1 million people in their audience. And that's with a planet and all that money pushing people to go watch them, and that's the best that they can do. We're not going to reach the world, but there's a group of people that can relate to you. And that's why you've got to be so relatable. You got to be professional, but you got to be relatable. and it's that they're talking to a real person. There's just so many ways to use media. Anyway, we'll do a whole presentation for you later on 10 great ideas for using media. But you do not need a lot of equipment. Like now, I'm going from, my typical thing is to prepackaged courses, like we'll video them and then we put them in a playout system. And so I wrote one of my staff members just yesterday, and I said, I'm in America. I have no equipment. All I have is my cell phone. And now I'm starting to get into live streaming, and we're about to start a webinar, and this thing I just mentioned to you, the live workshop. And I said, I probably need to buy some gear. And can you give me a great list of gear? I'm ready to do something. And then as I'm doing it, he sends me back and he says, don't you have your cell phone? he said, you're done. You just need your cell phone. I said, okay. I love equipment, but cell phones are just so it's apps. Apps are crazy. Well, Zoom, this is an app. I didn't buy anything. I just took my phone and stuck it against something and loaded an app. They're amazing.
They're starting to use the iPhone, just bringing in the iPhone and the Android videos right into the major network broadcasts and things like this. So that has to tell us something, doesn't it, Dr. Chuck?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 years ago, there were these boys that got trapped in a cave in our town in Thailand, and it became world news. It was a dozen kids trapped miles in this cave that was filling with water. And they had, all the networks were in our town, and someone showed me a picture, and they showed me this picture of the press pit with all these cameras, and there wasn't a camera there. It was a bunch of tripods with iPhones on the top. And that's where I was already there, but that's where, we cemented. And as a school, we probably put a third to half of our energy now on what could you do with a cell phone, because it's limitless. These are the most amazing machines.
Okay, what I want you to do, and then we're going to jump into Q&A, because I want the folks to have plenty of time with you tonight, talking with you about your expertise. But I want you to tell us how, and I've got that slide up right now for them, about the Church Leaders Digital Survival Course. And let me say to everyone, I'm halfway through the course, and it's done with excellence. It's on a wonderful online platform, so easy to operate, to go through in modules. But Dr. Chuck, tell us how they can go to this and get the course, and about how long it'll take them to go through it, kind of what it covers. Give us the Cliff Notes version of the table of contents, if you will.
Okay, we're basically going to teach you how to, the beginner mistakes, for example, this one, putting a hot light source behind yourself, or getting in what sounds like a bathroom when you talk, and the things that people do over and over again. So we're going to walk you through the beginner mistakes that are so easy to make and so easy to fix. Like, don't do these things. They mark you as a beginner. And then we're going to give you actually a template for a practice that we want you to get into, of a 1-minute devotional made for Facebook. And we give you even the outline. All you have to do is follow the outline and then plug in your scriptures to it, because being able to do things in a batch is really important. You shouldn't, it's like, that's just why pastors love series. It's not that everything is really more brilliant in 4 bits. It's that we don't have to think about what we're going to talk about all month. We can spend our time digging in. And so it saves us from every Saturday night going, oh my gosh, what am I going to talk about? Well, the same thing with Facebook. If every day you wake up and say, what am I going to do? This is going to drive you crazy. But if you just say, in my case, I said, fear is the biggest problem everybody has. I'm just going to do a bunch on fear. We just show you the easy way to get your material started. We teach you the basics of stabilizing your camera, getting yourself recorded with good audio. And then Andrew, my son, he takes over on all the stuff that's in Facebook, and we're just barely touching it. But what you need is a foundation to launch a new kind of ministry for yourself. And I'm really especially sensitive to the needs of a church of 150 or less, because you're the ones who need this the most. You need to see yourself as a brand. You need to start thinking like a brand. And we're going to, in the future, we're going to go to a lot of other courses too. But this first one will just get you set up by saying Facebook is the world's #1 place for people to go and meet. And in your demographic, it is probably the only place you need to be. So learn all that Facebook has to offer. And I've been amazed myself when I go into the Facebook Live back in now, gee whiz, they've added all kinds of stuff. It's so they're thinking about how to capitalize on all the webinar, live stream, all of this. They make it so easy and so powerful. You're gathering data on everybody who's watching you, and really you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do this. So this is a simple, approachable course. Anybody can make it through it. It was 6 sessions, and Andrew added one more the other day, so we made it 7 sessions long. Most of them are 10 minutes. Mine are more conceptual, so they're more like 30 minutes. So try it and see. MediaLightOnline.com, all one word. And I took everything off the website but that one course, so you couldn't miss it.
Hello, my name is Karen Clark. I'm in New Jersey.
Hi, Karen. Your question,
Hi.
Chuck.
Yes. One, are we talking about something that's interactive and two-way, or are just giving a message? And then do we need other equipment like webcams or microphone or streaming tools? And then just will Facebook be passe for the younger people? Will we be able to reach them as well? Thank you. It's been great.
Okay, I would say for 99% of us, don't go spending any money. It's not about that anyway. It's about your content. And in the case of people in ministry, you are the content. So you're going to have to find yourself and find your presence, find your personality. It's all part of you, but there's something that weird that happens to us when somebody puts a camera on and all of a sudden we change, you know, we're not ourselves anymore. So it's going to take you a while to get over that, because in the beginning you're going to start off too stiff. So it's more about that learning curve than any other single thing. Reaching young people, we can talk about that later, but that's going to take a whole lot more than to just be somewhere special to find them. You need a foundation to your ministry as an online ministry. And I think Facebook for most of us is the place to go.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. Love the folks up in New Jersey. Next, someone else, a question for Dr. Chuck.
Hey, Chuck.
Hey, Wayne.
Hey, it's good to see you. Fred, thank you for having Chuck on. I appreciate that, Fred. Chuck, that was a great capsule of where we are. And I think this is going to be a great blessing, as Leader Labs is, to our pastors. I really, really thank you and Sherry for doing this and putting this together. Have you received any feedback from some of the people that have gone through this who have been trained, Chuck? Any comments or questions or problems that they've had?
Not too many. We made this 2 weeks ago, opened it up, first of all, the World Missions Department to run a beta test on it. We had about 100 people go through it. The biggest problem with online courses is two things. One, not finishing the course. Over half of the people in anybody's program, even expensive ones that they paid for, over half don't finish. Yeah. And then secondly, not actually doing the work, just like passively watching the videos. And that's why it's occurred to me this week, I really think I'm going to have to because what we do in Asia is we have live workshops, and pastors will come in from everywhere, and we spend the day doing the work. And they walk out and it's done. They did it while they were there. So I think I'm just going to have to go to more of those to help people, because there are a lot of questions when people are just getting started, and all it takes is one of those issues to stop them dead and they don't pick it up again. But we can't not learn this.
Right.
You know,
Right.
whether it's COVID or the next one or none, we can't not learn this. This is the microphone. Either you have it or you don't. And we have to have the microphone.
Well, I
You know,
appreciate it.
Dr. Chuck, as I got your newsletter and saw that you had presented this online course and started going through it myself, I thought, wow, what a great time for something like this. Because, you know, as you, over the last few weeks, and I want to congratulate all of our pastors for jumping out there with the courage to sit on their back porch or in their living room or, you know, going out into the woods or wherever it was. But I've seen people everywhere trying to use that cell phone. And to be honest, it's been comical to a degree. While, you know, it's kind of a him and a haw, I'm saying, man, I'm so thrilled that you are courageous enough to jump out there and try to use this technology when it's evident that, you know, they're just trying. Yet at the same time, as you just mentioned, they're breaking some of the really what are common sense rules. But if you don't know the rules, then you don't know you're breaking them. So I'm so glad, because many of us don't want to admit that we don't understand the technology. But in the privacy of my own home, I could take your course and you could tell me, don't do that.
Mm. Yeah, it's sad, but in a lot of ways, you'd be better to not participate than to really, really do poorly, especially if you don't filter what you say online and you've got an opinion about every political thing, and you've got, you know, you go from your food to your, it's just like, what is your message? So even to start thinking like people who run a network, because you kind of have to do that. And I am supposed to have a message. What is my message in life? And edit. Don't let myself say it to my family, but don't put it online. You know, start filtering what I say and don't say.
Yeah. Okay, somebody else. Question for Dr. Chuck Quinley.
I have one. My name is Rebecca Spurlock, and I'm talking from Lexington, Kentucky. Have you ever worked with Google Classroom or Google to make things more easier for them to turn in the projects?
No, I don't have any experience with Google products.
I'm a former teacher. I'm on sabbatical right now. The reason why I'm asking is because I'm considering doing a children's church program using Classroom to help kids learn Bible verses. And I would be happy to share anything I can come across to you so you guys can do it. It's basically free.
That would be great. And I think anything you know how to do, that would be great for you to do. Because all these technologies, most of them do the same thing. Some just do it it looks a little nicer. Some, you know, are a little easier to use. But I'm really happy that you've got that skill and happy to see what you come up with.
Thank you, Rebecca. We love Kentucky. Go Big Blue. You're a Big Blue, right?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I see that.
And my Kentucky shirt.
There you go. Blue Nation, go. Okay, someone else. Another question for Dr. Chuck.
Hi, Chuck. Okay, this is Randy in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. How are you?
Hey, Randy. Doing good.
Thanks for coming on tonight. A few minutes ago, you were talking about the different platforms. Did I understand you correctly that Facebook is the primary platform of reaching the majority culture? Did I hear?
It's largest. Every country is different and every age group is different. But I would say for people our age in America, pastoring Christian groups, Facebook is pretty much the middle of the road.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. What are the different platforms on Facebook that you're using, Chuck? Are there some? Are there just one or two? You were talking about some of the backdoor stuff. Does that just get too deep for this conversation, or are there more than one way to use Facebook? Is there more than one way to use Facebook?
Yeah, it's a whole talk by itself. But it's not that hard to do, but there really is a lot of variety to these tools. And Facebook especially is it's like the Swiss Army knife. You know, it's every man's tool. You can run a business, you can do a nonprofit, you can do a fundraiser on it, you can run it as your TV station, you can just do a lot with it.
Okay, thank you, Randy. We love down in Palm Beach Gardens area. Another question for Dr. Chuck Quinley, please.
Hi, Dr. Garman. How are you? It's Rob Spurlock. Rob Spurlock from Lexington, sitting next door to this girl that just spoke to you.
Okay.
My interest in talking to our brother here, I'm wanting to look at maybe putting PowerPoint slides, scripture verses, things like that in my videos. I'm sure that the course will talk about doing something like that. Will that be part of your courses, or is that something you can quickly give an idea of here?
There are a lot of programs that can do that. What we're going to teach you to do is no edit, use your phone, no software, just go. Like, that's the beginning. And the importance is you can get more advanced, but are you going to do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? So that's what we're trying to get everybody started at, is establish a baseline media ministry where you are putting out content that is desirable, it is helping people, and you have a regularity to your work that they know when to expect you. And once we can get that established, there's lots of things we can do. But until we get that established, there's no reason to keep learning more things, you know. So that's where we're at in the beginning course, is to get you producing without editing and without learning a whole lot on the software side. Make you be the thing that learns, and don't worry about all the tech stuff yet.
Ask just a couple of questions. Well, first I was going to ask you if you recommend going live or editing first. I think you kind of just answered that. But in terms of a presentation, what length of time do you recommend we keep it to maximize attention, et cetera?
Actually, going live is a whole nother discussion. What the first course that we have is how to create and package content. It's nicely done. It's given as a gift, and you're going to do it every day or every 3 days or whatever you decide your schedule is. Going live is a whole nother matter, which has you got a lot of good reasons to do it. It is immediate. It's what we're doing right now. We're going live. If Fred had just made a video of me and him talking, it's not nearly as alive. Like right now, I'm looking at you. And that's the amazing thing that's being done. And a lot of people are discovering this. And we're going to all learn to be better at this. The whole thing is, do you want the whole world to see you go online, or do you want your staff only to see you go online? What's your purpose? Why are you going online? Why would you go live? There has to be a strategic reason, but it's good to do. Because even if during my live videos, I only have, I don't know, let me say I have 50 people watch me do an impromptu live video, Facebook will go look for a crowd for that. And when I check back in the next day, 1,000 people have seen it. I don't know who they were or how they got them to see it, but they will work with you on live. They want you blow up big on live. But, that's another subject, and that would be worth a course all by itself. Because I think a lot of us need to start going live. See, to go to a church service is very exciting, especially, if you feel the Holy Spirit moving, the crowd's there, everybody's loving you. To stick a camera in a church service, it's not the same thing. And so the churches that are doing a good job with services now, they understand that. And they're creating a really small box. They get the mindset they're supposed to have. The early attempts that I've seen some people do is go into the real sanctuary, put a camera in the real sanctuary. You don't need to think like that. if you're going to try to do a church service when there's nobody there, you need to find a room that's conducive, that's going to look great on camera, that's going to let you be, close to the people you're talking to. And there's some other considerations there. So that probably would all go under one big, I'm going to make a note. That's one of the notes I've made already, actually, is let's talk about a live stream course and see how quick we can get one of those up and touch on all these things.
Larry Comer from Sullivan, Indiana. Following up on Bill Lee's statement, is there a certain time frame that should be followed?
It just all depends on your mission. Like, why am I doing this? And how long? Before, you would have said, don't waste your time, hurry up, get on, get off. There's still a lot to be said for that, because people are giving you the gift of their time, the gift of their life. So I think it would depend on what you're talking about. If you're doing a suicide hotline live, you don't need to go off. Just stay on for hours. Honestly, I think it's a good idea. Somebody ought to do it. I know of people that run Google ads just on those topics, because they want to be the one these people talk to. So there are things that we should be doing and we can be doing right now. But if it's just to put a church service, it needs to be good and needs to be recorded well. And you're up against a lot of competition for church media right now. And so what you can do that's unique is you can be your church for your people. And there's people's names. It's immediate. That's why I'm saying don't try to go big, go small. And if you're live to say hello to the people you need to talk to, you've got people that, well, now we're all shut-ins. I started to say the shut-ins, but now that's everybody. You can keep the personal connection in what you consider. If your church service is 100 people, if I can get 50 people online, that's pretty good church service. So it's just thinking differently about it. It's a meeting of the same people in a different way.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go shorter online. I would go much shorter online, I guess I'd say.
I got a question for Chuck, and here's my question. I think that's awesome. What you're saying is make it more personal, because oftentimes our congregation wants that personal touch, and that is an awesome insight on that, because I think it opens up Pandora's box per se to the world. That's what Christ wanted to be. He's a personal Christ. He comes into our lives. I just think that's awesome.
Good comment, Wayne. Thank you, buddy. Somebody else, a couple more minutes here.
Fred, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Hi, this is Gay Jaconica Barnes from Stuart, Florida.
Hey, Jaconica.
Hey there. Hi. My question for Chuck is, what is your thought on doing the small videos or Facebook for the small ministries in the church? For example, either Sunday school or women's ministry, whereas these are things that we would do normally during the week, and but now we can't do them, and we're either, for example, like our Sunday school or our youth services, doing these small videos. So what's your opinion about that?
I would love that. And I think that's something you will continue to do when this is over with and everybody still starts coming to church again, is to be able to start making short videos to talk to a specific group of people within your ministry, to say exactly what you want to say to them, and to learn to do that with a little better production skill, so that it makes you look more professional, your church look like what you're saying is more important to them. These are skills that are so important in anything you're doing, from business to ministry. It doesn't matter what a person's career is. This is a new way of communicating. And if we can all learn to package our messages, not to just, that's why I'm a little bit scared of going live, because then it's just, I'm just like opening the door. Hey, this is my granddaughter. They've been so good. They've stayed out in the front yard doing circles for an hour. So I'm about to lose my audience here. But yeah, I think that's a very powerful way to use media, and a useful way. And it'll be a skill that you'll use the rest of your life.
Dr. Chuck, what are you using right now? Because you are walking and that camera is at a certain distance. Is that just your hand, or are you using something else?
I have a little tripod. It could be anybody's brand. This is Manfrotto. It's about $25. And it's a tripod, or I can just hold it with my hand and it becomes a hand grip. I think it's get out of a house, get out of the kitchen table, get out where there's nature. It's just easy to find places. If you just want to have a conversation, just keep talking. Sorry, I hit the sunlight there a few times, but yeah, the gear is not hard. It's knowing what's worth saying, because honestly, we don't just need more media. We've got so much of it anyway. We need more media that has a mission, it has a purpose, and it's well done. And if what I want is to stay connected to my church people, minister to people who are confused right now, lift up people who have lost their jobs and don't think they're going to get them back. If I care about people, I need to talk to them, and I'm locked in my house. So either I'm on the phone all day long, which is a great idea, or I can learn to package and communicate in this new way that lets me see their face, look them in the eye. I can talk to 2 or 3 or 5. So just get away from the idea that we're talking about the world. That's going to kill all this so quick. But if you think about it as just a new communications device for the people I want to talk to, and that'll keep you more real, and it'll make what you say more impactful, I think.
Dr. Chuck, we have had a wonderful time with you today. I want to thank you for coming on and for being with us and taking your time away from your granddaughter and the time out there, but for sharing with us this great course. Would you give us one more time, as I put the slide up, where they can find the Church Leaders Digital Survival Course?
Yep. If you'll go to MediaLightOnline.com, we'll be waiting for you. So the first thing I'm going to do when I hang up here is go check the stats and watch everybody pouring in, because I know there's a lot of people. There's Luis, and he is one of our staff members there. So we are excited to welcome you and to get you started on your learning curve.